We're back with another episode. I'm Susan Lopez, tactical dietitian, and this is the Tactical Nutrition and Performance Podcast, where we help tactical athletes bridge the gap between nutrition, metabolism, sleep, stress, training, supplements, and more so that they can perform better and live longer. Welcome to the show. So I am doing something a little bit different today. So we are going to be talking to Mr. Matt Gehlbach today, and he's one of you guys. He's someone who comes from the field, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we'll talk a little bit about what my interest is in him. And then we'll go from there. I think we're going to talk about a lot of good stuff today. So if you guys want to hear it, you're going to have to stick around for the whole episode. All right, Matt. That's your cue. You got to give us your elevator pitch now. Let the people know who you are.
My name is Matt Gehlbach. I'm a firefighter paramedic for a large metropolitan fire department in the Bay Area in California. I've been a firefighter for over 10 years, going on 11 years now, with 3 different departments. I'm also a small business owner. I own a supplement company and a wannabe bodybuilder. I did my first competition in November of 2024. I won 3 out of 4 classes on that one. And I'm just now then I'm moved into a foray of coaching other first responders, taking what I've learned and my experiences and coaching other first responders to help regain their health. And it's kind of a passion of mine to teach other first responders about longevity and health because we have a long career and we're exposed to so much. And I've seen too many just illnesses and injuries on the job. And yeah, it's just a passion of mine to help people have a long, successful, rewarding career.
Yeah. And I have to ask you, Matt. So, are you someone who's kind of been interested in fitness and health and whatnot for most of your life? Or do you feel like that's something that you've kind of just taken on recently within the past few years?
Well, it kind of depends on what you mean by last few years. I've always tried to ever since I was in college. So, I come from a sports background. I played baseball and football growing up, and I played rugby when I went to college. And I've always tried to put on muscle. I was kind of a skinny, tall kid in high school. I was 6'4" when I graduated and 165 pounds. And I've always struggled to try to put on muscle. And so if we can quantify that as like fitness, then yes, but I never really got serious about it until my 30s, till I had kids. And that's when I really buckled down and stopped following fad diets, I guess you could say, and started really kind of counting my calories and being more disciplined about my training and nutrition and tracking it. Um, so I would say really dialed it up last since I was like 32 and I'm 38 now. And now I have three kids later and I'm still able to try to juggle it and stay fit and um, yeah, be healthy.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like a lot of us out there. I'm sure it's probably just pure chaos a lot of times. But
Yeah. I say a lot of my social media is you need to find a system that works for you. I'm a big proponent of your systems, right? And I'm a big routine person, and I don't like it when my routine gets out of whack because then I have to I feel like I'm playing catch up. And when you have 3 kids and they're all or one's in sports and the other is getting into sports and swim lessons and whatever extracurriculars you have, you need to have a system in place, right? You need to be on the same page with your significant other as well and have a plan, right? And a plan for the week. So uh, it's a controlled chaos, I guess you could say. You just try to kind of control it as you can. And you have to bob and weave with the speed bumps that happen. Sometimes stuff happens and you got to roll with the punches, and that's okay, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think we feel that at our house too a lot of times. And I'm looking forward to kind of diving more into that today and talk about how you specifically manage that chaos or control it as best you can. because the thing that really got my attention about your social media account was, I think I was scrolling one day, as we all do, and your account just kind of came up in my feed, and I can't remember exactly what post it was, but you were talking about how you're able to kind of like manage your nutrition even though you actually commute like 2 hours a day for your job, right? Can you talk more
Hmm.
about that and like the situation around that?
Yeah, it's yeah, two and a half depending on traffic. Well, I live in the Sierra foothills, and when I got hired at my current agency, we already had a house up here, and we love it up here, and it's a beautiful area. And so my wife and I, we didn't want to move closer, and we're already kind of established here. And it was one of those things where I was like, I don't mind getting up early and driving, and I'll make it work, right? And for me, it's kind of the 2 hour commute is kind of cathartic, and I actually enjoy it quite a bit because it's just kind of a break from that chaos with my three kids. And I'm not trying to, throw shade at my kids or anything, but sometimes as parents, we need like just time to just dial
Yeah.
it down a little bit, and I've always been a morning person, so getting up at like 4:30, 4:45 is pretty fine for me. And
Mhm.
just driving in, and uh I used to not own I own a Tesla now, and so that helps having that autopilot kind of drive me. But I used to not, and that was a little bit more difficult, but I just try to make things easier for me, right? I'm pretty lazy when it comes to certain things. I was like, I want to make things easier. How do I make things easier for, my commute, fitness, nutrition, everything, right? Like low bearing fruit, right? And it's really nice. Sometimes it drags on me if there's a lot of traffic, or I need to get home for, let's say, a sporting event for my kids or something, and
Mhm.
I get tied up at work and I can't make it on time, and it's like, this kind of drags. But you just kind of redeem that time. So in the mornings, I like to listen to podcasts. Sometimes I'll just sit in silence with my thoughts, or listen to music. And then on the way home, it's my time to like catch up. I can call friends, family, talk to them on the phone and not get interrupted with
Mm.
uh, kids wanting drinks or snacks or changing dirty diapers or whatever. So I, I truly not even, I wouldn't say I don't mind it, but I actually kind of like it because it's that separation. You're kind of running at 1,000 RPMs when you're on duty and on shift, and it gives you time to kind of dial it down and get into like that family mode and transition. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
a little bit of a period where you can kind of maybe like down regulate a little bit, kind of in your own way.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Just kind of take that stress and that cortisol that we have when we're on shift, and just bring it down a little bit so you're not getting home to, let's say, bunch of screaming kids if they are, and you're already revved up, and then you're just like overstimulated and lose your cool or get mad and do something you regret, right? For me, it's just you're able to walk in and then embrace that chaos when you walk in.
Yeah. What kind of shifts are you guys working at your
We
warehouse?
do 48 96s. So we do 2 on 4 off. Yeah. Yeah, depending on overtime mandatories, things like that. So sometimes it can be extended up to 96 hours, but um, the standard schedule is 48 96.
When you're prepping to get ready to head out for your 48-hour shift, talk to us about what that looks like. How are you making sure that you are, especially being so far away from home, right?
Mhm.
And it's not like you necessarily have your spouse who can drop things off to you, or I don't know the area that your firehouse is in. I don't know anything about it, so I don't know like what the resources are in that area. But how do you specifically, especially because you did a bodybuilding show last year, when you're trying to sort of stay on point with your nutrition and with what you have going on, how do you prepare for your shift? Because definitely there are those individuals out there who struggle to kind of stay on track. They maybe didn't have any exposure to like fitness or sports or just, different lifestyle. And they're trying to kind of turn that corner now, especially because like I think even, and I'm sure you feel this, like you start hitting your late 30s, or your 40s, right? And like that, like mortality starts to creep on up on you a little bit. So if you realize you haven't taken care of yourself, right? And now you're hitting kind of that halfway point,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
some other event kind of wakes you up a little bit. How do you prep for that shift? What is some advice that you can maybe give us?
Yeah. So, what I do is I make sure I kind of have my two big macronutrients, right? We have proteins, carbs, and fats. And of those, I make sure I have enough protein I bring to work and I have enough carbs to bring to work, right? And the fats I can kind of supplement while I'm at work. We have olive oil, we have peanut butter. If I need something there, like I can supplement with that. But I want to make sure get enough protein because I see that when we eat at the fire station, not that the meals are deficient in protein, but there's just not enough to get that kind of golden 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? So I always bring a little bit more so I can supplement if need be. And same with the carbohydrates. Sometimes for us on our 48s, our first day is we do lunch, dinner, then a brunch or lunch and dinner, right? And usually that lunch on the first day is some sort of salad, which is great. I love salads. I'm big on salads. However, it's kind of deficient in carbs. So I bring like my rice or my potatoes and I'll
Mhm.
eat that as well, just so I can hit my macros. And I have a general understanding of what my macros are. And depending on my goals, I can kind of dial in my nutrition or loosen it up a little bit more, right? So, for example, when I was prepping for my show, I made sure I did have, my proteins. I would even bring avocados in for my show too. So I actually brought my fats as well to make sure I was just really, because you have to be really pinpoint. Even the sauces I would stay away from because those calories add up when you're dieting down to, sub 10% body fat. But I, once again, the system's in place, right? So proteins, bring my carbs. Sometimes I'll bring some fruit as well for extra carbohydrates. What else do I bring? I like yogurt. I bring those little Oikos 000 cups. Those are great for to go. And I just have this little cooler, this little Arctic cooler that I bring to work, and that's kind of how I do it. And at a station, I bought a scale, so there's a scale in our station, and I now see other my coworkers weighing their food too when they want to dial in their nutrition, which is pretty sweet to see. And you know, when I was on my show it was a lot of people ask me this too is do you eat with the crew, right? And yes, I eat with the crew, but during my show I would eat kind of my meals and my crew understood that I have these goals in mind, right? So I'd still throw down the money because we all pitch in for chow at the beginning of the shift. So I'd still throw down for chow. If it was like a lean protein, I would eat that and kind of maybe like a potatoes that weren't like doused in oil. I would eat those too. Um, so to answer your question, yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And right now, since I'm not prepping for any set goal, just to not gain a bunch of weight back, I would still bring my proteins and carbs. But for the most part, I eat the meals that are made at the fire station. And even when it's my turn to cook, I try to make it a little bit healthier. So I'll grab a recipe and I'll put my own like healthy twist on it as well. And people seem to like that too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm probably going to misquote it, but I think it was James Clear. Like one of the most famous quotes that came out of his book, Atomic Habits, was like, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to the levels of your systems. Right. So it's just talking
that sounds
about,
right. Yeah.
yeah, I probably butchered it a little bit. But
Hmm.
yes, I love that mentality because that's something that we set up in our home too. And something that I encourage, my guys to do is, do you have a routine? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have chaos, but just like you mentioned earlier, like what within that chaos can you control? And so having systems allows you to do that. And also just I think you said something important too was like where your macros need to be. So even if you're not necessarily weighing every single day, or if you're not in show prep, you at least have an idea of like what a serving size looks like for you and what you kind of need in that moment. Because this is something that comes a lot too, is if I ask somebody and I'm like, hey, do you know, if I tell you, hey, you should be getting 50 grams of protein per meal, do you know what 50 grams of protein looks like? And a lot of times I'd be just deer in the headlights. No, I don't really know.
Hmm.
And so even if somebody isn't prepping for a show, like you should know how much food is enough food for you. So at some point, it wouldn't hurt you to occasionally weigh or measure your food, especially if you have some pretty good goals in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I tell a lot of my clients too, is it's my goal for if you're just starting out, let's say on your fitness journey, it's my goal to get you to a point where you don't need the scale anymore. So yes, you're going to need a scale for when you're dieting down because you need to be more precise and more disciplined. However, when you go to your maintenance phase and you reintroduce a little bit more food, my goal is that you've done this so much that you can look at that portion and be like, that's about 45 grams of protein right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thighs, chicken breasts, thighs are going to have a little bit more fat. Okay. I'm going to withhold, let's say the avocado or whatever may be doused with like oils or cheese or something like that. Right. And just have that in your brain to where you can make these like more conscious decisions without being neurotic on tracking and weighing because only I guess the psychos can track their food 24/7, 365. Even I can't do anymore. And I don't do it right now. I'm just kind of watching my portions, right? And that gives you a lot more freedom. And in my mind, it uh you're able to enjoy life a little bit more when you have that freedom. So you hit your goal weight, you hit your goals for your physique or whatever it may be, and then you dial it back and you enjoy food a little bit more, have a little bit more freedom. And there is such a thing as, and I'm sure you've seen this too, the dieting fatigue. People just don't want to
Mhm.
diet anymore. They don't want to weigh their food anymore. They don't want to look at a scale. Get that thing out of my face, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's important to have that kind of balance, right? Where you get to that point and then, okay, let's dial it back. And what I also tell people is when in doubt, it's just protein, just your fist, about a fistful. You're in the
Yeah.
ballpark if you just do like a fistful and uh you might be going off on a tangent too, but like if you're on a vacation or something as well, like all I say is bare minimum, just get your protein in. Get your protein in, and you can kind of figure everything else, right? Because you have that thermogenic effect of food. You can still kind of be in a fat burning state if you just don't go way off the rails, but make sure you get your protein in. Get that base in. I mean, that should be the base in the food pyramid, right? Your protein
Yeah,
content.
no, I definitely, when I coach, I'm always like, hey, like we need to keep it simple. It's
Mhm.
a very good chance you're not getting the amount of protein that you're supposed to be getting because most people are not. And so, yes, we kind of start there. Even for performance, we may start there and then we incorporate those carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm right there with you for sure. That's and sometimes you just don't have the mental bandwidth to be able to count calories and do all those things. And nutrition is a skill, it's a skill you have to build, right? And
Mhm.
so you shouldn't expect, if you're somebody who's new to tracking or measuring food or even just eating better, like you shouldn't expect your first week out of the gate to be perfect or to even be 80% perfect. I think sometimes, if you're coming from a place where you haven't really taken care of yourself or you haven't addressed your nutrition,
Mhm.
there's some
Yeah.
unlearning I think that has to happen.
Yeah, like the dogmatism of good foods versus bad foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still see that a lot. Like I got that a little bit at the firehouse where it's like, hey man, are you allowed to eat this? It's like, I can eat anything. I'm allowed to eat anything. Would I choose to eat, let's say, a donut instead of my rice, right, with ground beef or whatever? Trust me, I would love a donut. That sounds phenomenal. However, I'm going to be hungry like 40 minutes later. I need something more filling and satiating to get me through to my next meal. Because when you're dieting down, you're You're eating and then you're just looking forward to your next meal, right? Yes,
Yeah.
I can have a donut. You can. I believe if it fits your macros, go for it. But if you're eating low satiating foods, but highly palpable that you could just eat one and then all of a sudden you're 7 donuts deep, I want
Mhm.
to stay away from that. I wouldn't say can't, but I don't want to. I don't want to go down that path, you
Yeah, I
know?
tend to find too sometimes if you're underfed, if you're undernourished, right? You're
Mm,
missing some things from your diet. You tend to find that those are the folks that seem to have the most trouble with cravings or like falling off the rails too.
yeah.
I think folks get uh, they over diet, meaning that there should be more emphasis on the physical aspect. So, like training, right? Are you consistently getting some type of cardiovascular training in each week, right?
Yeah.
Are you consistently getting a certain number of steps in? Are you consistently hitting the weights 2 or 3 times a week at least, right?
Hmm.
And nutrition is a huge piece of it for sure when it comes to longevity, body composition. Like it's massive, massive. But I think the benefits of also just like the training aspect of it and building yourself up in that way too is sometimes overlooked when it comes to um, just the mindset that it can put you in. So one of the things we know for sure is that like individuals when they diet and they lose weight, the ones who keep it off the longest are those who adapt an identity of somebody who is healthy, of somebody who trains consistently. There kind of has to be like a change in identity that occurs. And I think fitness is a big piece of that, maybe talk a little bit about like what you do for training, especially when you're on shift and when you're off shift. How do you manage that?
Yeah. Well, when I'm on shift, it's, obviously kind of a crapshoot call dependent, right? So, uh, right now, I try to get at least one training session. If I get both in for two training sessions over the course of 2 days, like that's a total win. I am at a little bit of a solar station, so it's a little bit easier to get my training session in. And so uh, it depends on what we have going on for the day, and it can be anywhere from, I guess, in the morning when we first get there and I get my checkout done, and or sometimes it's in the later in the afternoon, like right before dinner. I like to time it right before mealtime so I can get my post-workout carbs in, and then I'm not like screaming with hunger and waiting for dinner to happen, and all of a sudden I crush a whole bag of potato chips, which has happened before. But uh, um, so and you have to be creative because the station gyms aren't as comprehensive as a normal big box gym, right? So you get creative with some of the exercises, right? And especially for if you're like training legs, it's a little bit more difficult. We have a Smith machine, and I got this cool little attachment that I can attach to like a low cable pulley to for a hamstring curl, which has worked out really well for us. And you just kind of, like I said, just get really creative with the stimulus and um, kind of make it work. And if you get interrupted with a call, that's okay. And it's okay to come back to it later in the afternoon and split it up into two sessions. It's fine. It was a little bit more difficult when I was training for my show because I had to do like 45, 50 minutes of cardio and the training session.
Mhm.
So I would actually get up really early, even if we didn't get that much sleep, I'd still get up really early to do my cardio just so that aspect is out of the way, and then try to get my training session in at some other point. But sometimes you don't get any training sessions in while you're on duty, and that's okay too. You just kind of play with the days and do it when you're off duty. And mornings when I get off duty, off shift, I'll go straight to the gym. So I'll drive up to kind of where I'm at and go to the gym there. And I'll usually be done and home around noon. And that's right when my son's getting out of his preschool. So I'll pick him up at like 12:45 or so. And then my daughter gets out at 2:30. So it's like perfect. They don't I'm going to miss them anyways for my commute going to school, right? So
Mhm.
it works out perfectly for us, that system works out. So, and I also have another gym membership up here because my wife does work. She's a registered nurse. And so when she works, I have a gym that has babysitting as well. So once again, another system thing in there so I can get my training session. So two hours free babysitting. And that's a big blessing for us too. So I can take my youngest, who's not in preschool, not in any school there, and then I can get my lift in and then pick her up and then pick up the other kids, the olders I call them.
Yeah, remove barriers. Do
Hmm.
you feel like there's ever days where you just like you just don't feel like doing it, where maybe you just don't have the energy, or maybe you're just mentally drained, where you're just like, you know what, I don't feel like eating my meal prep today, or uh, you know,
Yes,
so
very much
talk
so.
about that a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Because I think, like, even for me, like, when we're doing social media, like, we show a lot of the really good stuff, and we, and I think people need to see that. But I think, like, let's get real for a second. Like, talk about the times where you're like, I'm just not doing it today.
Yeah, I mean that happens actually more often than I think people think, where I'm not feeling it. And I've learned through my years of training that if I try to push through when my body's kind of telling me like, I'm not feeling it, let's say my back is a little sore, or I'm still sore, I'm really drained from my shift. And if I try to push through and ignore what my body's telling me, more likely than not, I kind of tweak myself. I get a little injured. I've got a old back injury from work, and sometimes that will flare up and um, or like I'll strain like a muscle really, really lightly because I'm probably dehydrated. All these bells that are going off in my head telling me not to train. I've learned to listen to it, listen to your body, and and that's okay. And then yeah, not doing the meal prep, like that happens quite frequently or happened quite a bit during the prep. Sometimes I would get, my coach was awesome. He gave me one free meal a week, which was cool. So I'd time that to when I got off shift because of the stress hormones that were going off in my body. I was like craving dopamine. And so I would time my free meal to my first day off at night, and we would go out. It's family dinner night, the first night off. So I'd go out, have like a cheeseburger or some pizza, maybe have a drink, and it was perfect for me. That scratched that dopamine itch, and that was really nice. And so yeah, there is sometimes, but and that's what I do for my clients too. I give them a free meal each week, and that kind of just resets their cortisol levels, I think, and their fatigue levels, and allows them a little bit more freedom. And a lot of times, um, you know, when you're dieting super hard, it affects your sleep, and then they'll sleep better, they'll recover better, and also the framing, I think, is huge too. Instead of calling it a cheat meal, it's kind of have a negative connotation, cheating. It's a free
Mhm.
meal. Enjoy it. Don't think you're
Yeah.
cheating on your diet. You've, it's free. I've had it. Get back on the wagon, right? Because when people have that, the psychology of a cheat meal is that, oh, I cheated on my diet, thus I need to punish myself, right? So what's the next thing?
Mhm.
I'm going to skip my next meal, or I'm going to punish myself with cardio, or I'm going to work it off, or something to that effect. And then you just start spinning your wheels, or you're going downhill, right? Let's say you skip another meal, and then your hunger's screaming at you, and then you DoorDash Taco Bell or something like that, and
Yeah. Just
uh,
like, F it, I'm already off the wagon. You know,
exactly,
I'll just,
exactly.
I'll just, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to just you have it on your week, and that's my free meal day. And a lot of my clients seem to like that. They're like, I love my free meal day. It's really, really great.
Hmm.
And it just really helps them continue on. And it helps, I think, kind of reset those hunger hormones as well too, and gives you a good little reset.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another thing I think people probably struggle with, is that all or nothing mentality. And then that can lead to spiraling, and in my opinion, you always have the opportunity, if you feel like you did something off plan, right? It's the one thing that you did is probably not catastrophic. You have an opportunity at your next meal, or your next opportunity, whatever that might look like, to
Mhm.
kind of get back on track. And also, I think it's like the self talk that we sometimes do with ourselves is really important, right? What
Mhm.
we say to ourselves, what the reasons are. Um, I get a lot of, I can't because of my schedule. I can't because my family needs something from me. I can't because of this, kind of like overly focused on some of those external factors. And yes, we have competing priorities and we have things that are sometimes going to take precedence over maybe some of those things occasionally. But I think the way that we uh, internalize those things, think about them, and even speak about them really matters, right? Um, and so just I'm curious, like, what is some of the dialogue that you have with yourself, around those times when you maybe aren't feeling it, but also those times where you're like, I'm not feeling it, but I'm going to do it anyway, or things come up. Like, are you like an optimist or are you a pessimist? Where are we at?
No, I'm definitely an optimist. I'm
Okay.
like Mr. Brightside. But there's not much going on in this hamster wheel, so there's not that much self-talk. It's just kind of uh, stuff I need to do, and I need to get it done. I don't. Sometimes I vacillate in my brain a little bit, uh, where it's like, yeah, I don't want to do this,
Mhm.
but I think I've kind of learned to just not listen to that really, where it's just more so that this is something I need to do, and that's okay, and I'll get it done.
Yeah.
That's how I talk to myself. And if I don't get to it, I don't beat myself up. I don't put myself down. Okay,
Yeah.
it happens. Sometimes a wrench gets thrown into the system, and it happens, and that's okay. And that's why I try to tell people like, hey, it's okay. It's all right. Don't uh, don't negative self-talk. Don't get down on yourself. Don't have a conversation with yourself because you will talk yourself out of it. I think that's part of it too, because we're
Hmm.
really good at talking ourselves out of hard
Yeah.
things. We're wired to not want to do these difficult things that require discipline, right? And
I'm
so,
guilty of that. I have
yeah,
definitely, like, I'll be in the middle of trying to talk myself out of something that I'm supposed to be doing. And I'll be like, why are we even having a conversation about this? Why am I even thinking about this? Right. And
yeah,
at that
yeah,
point, uh, not a crazy person, but we do have dialogue with ourselves,
yeah,
then at that point, kind of get up and be like, okay, we're just go knock this out real quick.
yeah, exactly. And I found out as soon as that doubt creeps in, or that not wanting to do it voice, I guess you could say, creeps in, I just have to like start moving towards the task I need to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes, I used to do this all the time with the gym, like all the time. And I think that's why I wasn't making any progress in the gym, is because I talk myself out of it all the time. And I would say, oh, I got four, let's say I was training 4 times a week. My program had 4 sessions a week and I got three in. I got three. That's good enough. I'll skip it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you start stacking these skip sessions on week per week per week. And you can even apply that to your nutrition as well, where you start going off your plan of, 1 meal a day, then 2 meals a day. Then you have multiple days in a row where even if it's just one meal, that adds up, right? And so you start talking to yourself, and it's almost like this weird reverse psychology where it's like, oh, I've been good yesterday. I had a perfect day yesterday, so I deserve this today. Okay, maybe, but then what happens tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was pretty good Monday, and yesterday I had that cheeseburger, and today's Wednesday, and we're going out for pizza night. I was still good Monday, and I was pretty good yesterday. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. And then you start stacking that on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I think people start kind of going off the rails. It starts slow and kind of meanders down that path. And all of a sudden you start putting on the pounds. And you're like, what is going on? I thought I was good. And then you look
Mm-hmm.
back and your calorie deficit is kind of wiped out for the week for just a couple meals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I kind of went off the rails on that one. But anyways, it's for me, it's just I don't let the self-doubt or negative self-talk really kind of get into to my brain because I've talked myself out of it way too many times and shot myself in the foot. And then I'm left wondering why I'm not losing weight and why I'm not making any gains. And so let's just shut off the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you start having that conversation with yourself, just get up and move, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
The
as a
same thing goes
coach,
with like, sorry, the same thing goes with like kids too, where it's like, oh, as parents, we self-reflect a lot and we want to do the best thing for our kids and the best thing. And did I do that right? Did I do that wrong? And that's good to a certain extent. But for me, it's like, well, I could have disciplined my kids a little bit better in this way. Okay, next time I'll be better, and I'm going to learn from it, as opposed to that negative self-reflection and woe is me, I'm a terrible parent or whatever it may be. It's like we're all trying to do our best for our kids. We're all trying to do your best. Give yourself a little grace. And I think that's the overarching theme is give yourself some grace, but also do the hard thing.
yeah, grace, not excuses for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yes. That's
absolutely.
a good way to put it. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, spending time, I think, like anytime you make changes, you're gonna feel uncomfortable. And I think that's something that people should lean into
Yeah.
is if it's making you uncomfortable, you probably need it, you know. As a coach, what are some things that, like, if you could tell your clients one thing, what's like one thing that's like kind of on repeat all the time, when working with your clients? What is something you commonly see that you kind of have to work through with them?
They're not training hard enough.
Mm,
They're
okay.
not, the intensity isn't there from the lifting side. I need to think about the nutrition side, but from the lifting side, I make all my clients send me a video for the first couple of weeks of their technique, so we can make sure their technique is on point. So we're stimulating the muscle that needs to be stimulated, and we're not just like moving weight. And so I'll watch this and I'll be like, and I'll tell them, I said, this is good form, but you have like 5 or 6 left in the tank, right? Are you grunting? Are you making funny faces? Is it burning? Things like that. That's how you know you're kind of in the ballpark. That's a really low bar way of knowing you're in the ballpark, right? And uh, so that's one of the mistakes is getting back to not wanting to do the hard things, right? As soon as that lift starts getting a little difficult, people give up. But that's where the muscle growth happens. So you need to dig deep and grab a couple more reps out of there. And
Mhm.
then my clients get back to me like, oh, okay, I see how it is now. I can't walk. Like, perfect. We did that.
Well, you
And
are hypertrophy dad.
yeah, so that's my jam is putting on muscle and making sure people that want to build muscle and lose fat. And I'm not, I like hypertrophy. That's my jam. And
Yeah.
from the nutrition side, uh, the mistake I see people make, it, it's not necessarily a mistake, but people say it's really hard to get the protein in because they're not used to it, right? And
Hmm.
so um, and so the way I program my clients is I do a little bit more than 1 gram per pound of body weight just for satiety's sake, so they stay fuller longer. And they're like, "Holy cow! I had no idea I was under eating." A lot of clients, I'm sure you've seen this too, they're under eating for a really long time and they think they're dieting, but they're not. And I add some food in and just do, let's say, let's like more whole foods, right? And I'll add that in at like a 200 calorie deficit from their maintenance, and they're stuffed and they're losing weight. And it just totally blows their minds because
Hmm.
everyone's mistake before they get into really dialing in their nutrition is, well, I mean, salads are healthy, right? That's cool. And
There's
various
nothing
other
there.
healthy things. There's nothing there, and
There's
avocado
nothing there.
toast and things like
Hmm.
that. And when you do a protein forward diet with some carbs and some healthy fats, they're losing weight and feeling stuffed. And a lot of my clients are like, I couldn't eat anymore. I can't. And I'm still losing weight. This is awesome. So when I'm onboarding clients, that's the biggest mistake I see is a lot of them are just under eating and uh, not getting their protein requirement. But from the nutrition side, I program macros a lot. I like giving them macro targets. Uh, so I don't see too many mistakes with that because it gives them a lot of freedom. I'll start off, if people want a meal plan, I'll start them off with a meal plan, but that's so strict, they fatigue out really, really quick, kind
Mhm.
of eating the same meals over and over again. And then I tell my clients, I said, I'm going to transition you to a macro plan to give you more freedom. So it doesn't really feel like dieting. It just feels like you're eating less and then you're losing weight and all is well.
I think macro structures are great. We do some similar things. We'll teach people how to actually program their macros, and it,
Mhm.
it does provide a lot of flexibility. And also, if somebody's, you know, I think it's important that people understand like why they're consuming certain types of foods. And just like you
Mhm.
said, like people are shocked when they're like, I'm eating so much more, but I'm so much more satiated. So uh, when you're eating that protein, when you're getting fiber, like food volume is also a thing too. You don't have to not eat the salad. You can eat the salad to fill up the stomach, but when you're looking at calorie dense versus energy dense foods, all that stuff like plays a
Yes.
role in how you're going to respond to different meal plans and diets and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
so I love all of that. I think I will tell you that like I work with a lot of special operations, and so the only thing that I disagree with you on is I never ask the guys how sore they are after a workout because like some of these guys have such a high pain tolerance level. Like
Mhm.
if I was like, hey, you have to train until fatigue or till you're sore, I mean, they would kill themselves,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say that out of this whole discussion, right, that's where probably our demographic and our like discussion about training probably differs a little bit.
Well, I think it's also
Um,
because we have different clientele, right? I'm not training special
mm,
operations folks, so I would be with you if I was training them. I'm not going to ask them because they would kill themselves, right? But
yeah,
for us, for me, and building muscle and hypertrophy with more of my lifestyle
yeah.
clients, I do have them fill out like a biofeedback form every week, and I ask them what their muscle soreness or DOMS are, right? Your delayed onset muscle soreness is to rate it
Hmm.
because I want them to grow the muscle and be recovered enough for that next workout, so it's not overly fatiguing. You're not compounding the fatigue week after week after week, and then you're not growing muscle because you're getting in that kind of overtraining realm. But I think
Yeah,
we just agree because we have different clientele. So yeah, if
yeah.
I train a special ops guy, heck no, I'm not telling them asking them that.
Yeah. No, and I think I do. I think there are a lot of people who under train, especially like cardiovascular training. Like maybe
Mhm.
we think we're doing enough, but maybe we're really not. Yeah, so I could definitely like see how there's a difference there. Um, so we
Yeah.
are already coming up on
Oh.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tag on with the cardiovascular training really quick.
Yeah.
I talk about all my socials on cardio is all about zone two, and I'm a huge
Yeah.
proponent of zone two. Uh,
Same.
well, that's great. See, we agree on something else.
Yeah,
Just
we
because
actually agree on a lot.
the benefits of it, and I made a post about like when you're training for a fire academy or um, the job, zone two is the best. And for me, when I was training for my most current department, I was doing zone two. And I remember being in the academy and being like, I'm not tired. I'm not tired. And they kind of had to pull me back and be like, all right, Matt, sit, stay, you're done. And I was like, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. And so for me, like I both have that anecdotal experience and the science to back it up, where I think people will think they need to do all this hit training, dummy drags, sled pulls, which are good. I just think you get a lot more benefits for health and longevity in addition to the cardiovascular capacity, the aerobic capacity with zone two. It's kind of the shotgun, one size fits all. The only downfall is that it takes a lot of time, and that's tough for more of a busy professional.
Yeah, I agree. I'm 100% with you there.
Mhm.
Yeah. We are coming up on 45 minutes though, which at that time, I feel like that time flew by. We could probably discuss
Yeah,
a lot of these things for an entire
we
day.
should make a series or something.
Yeah, seriously.
So
We should definitely chat again. But
yeah, that'd be
awesome. I'm
sweet.
I'm really glad that you were able to make the time to come do
Yeah.
this because I think it's always important to hear from people who are doing things really well. So before we close off for today, let's tell everybody where we can find you, how to contact you, you have some really great Instagram material too, by the way.
Oh,
Very,
thank you.
yeah, I love your reels. I'm still
Oh,
I'm still very like I love Instagram, but I hate Instagram. I need to do a
Uh,
better job of. I'm always just a talking head.
Trust me, social media is not my jam. Social media is not my jam, right? So it's yeah, it's a love hate. It is what you make of it, I guess. I like to say social media is what you make of it. A lot of support and a lot of haters too. So it's like, oh, whatever. But you can
Yeah.
find me at hypertrophy dad on Instagram and hypertrophy.dad on TikTok, hypertrophy dad on YouTube, and yeah, those are my socials. So you can find me there.
Do we still have TikTok? Is TikTok still a thing?
TikTok is still around. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I yeah, TikTok is I like TikTok a lot. So that's I'm glad it's there. I get a lot of
I
clients
have a
from TikTok.
TikTok account. I made it like years ago, and I
Mhm.
don't think I've ever really used it. Like sometimes I throw content up there
Mhm.
just using like a scheduler, but I never actually open TikTok.
It's
I
probably
don't
for the
actually
best.
have it on my phone.
That's probably for the best. It's probably for the
So
best.
I thought it was gone. See, I don't even know.
Yeah,
All right,
right.
awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt. All
Thanks,
right,
Susan.
enjoy the rest of
Appreciate
your
it.
week. Okay.
Thanks. See ya.